Lisa Bennett took a deep breath as the transport ship docked at Outpost Centauri. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept her face calm. She was the first human to join the Galactic Alliance Defense Force, and she knew the importance of making a good first impression. The airlock hissed open. Lisa squared her shoulders and stepped through. The bright lights of the station made her squint. The air smelled different here. Sterile, with a hint of something alien she couldn't quite place. Group of officers waited in the docking bay. They looked at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to open amusement. Lisa had expected this. Humans were new to the galactic community, and many species viewed them as weak, primitive creatures who had stumbled upon faster-than-light travel through sheer luck rather than true intelligence. "So this is the human recruit," said a tall reptilian officer. His scales shifted colors as he spoke, flashing from deep blue to purple. Commander Zelthar. Lisa recognized him from the briefing files. The commander of Outpost Centauri and a BOE, decorated war hero among the Draconid species. Lisa saluted. "Recruit Lisa Bennett reporting for duty, sir." A ripple of laughter spread through the welcoming committee. Lisa kept her posture straight even as her cheeks burned. "At ease, human," Commander Zelthar said. His voice sounded like stones grinding together. "Your kind doesn't have much experience with military protocol, I understand." "I completed the standard alliance training program, sir," Lisa replied. She had graduated top of her class, in fact, but she saw no point in mentioning that now. The commander's scales flickered, and what Lisa had learned indicated amusement. "Yes, the reduced program designed for less capable species." He turned to a female officer beside him. "Officer Vale, show Recruit Bennett to her quarters and then to her assignment." "Assignment, sir?" Lisa asked. She hadn't expected to receive one so quickly. "Yes, we have allocated you to the Beastmaster Division." More laughter followed his statement. Lisa knew what that meant. The Beastmaster program was where the Alliance sent recruits they thought would wash out. It was dangerous work, handling captured creatures that were used in military operations, but it was also seen as requiring little strategic thinking. Just the kind of job the others thought a human would be suited for. Officer Vale nodded to Lisa. "Follow me, recruit." As they walked through the station's corridors, Lisa felt the stares of the crew. Some were merely curious, but others were openly mocking. A pair of tall, multi-armed aliens nudged each other as she passed. "Look at those fragile limbs," one said, not bothering to lower its voice. "No natural armor, no claws, not even basic night vision. How did they ever become the dominant species on their planet?" Lisa kept her eyes forward. Officer Vale glanced at her. Unlike Commander Zelthar, Officer Vale was only half Draconid. Her other half was Arcturian, giving her more humanoid features alongside patches of fine scales. "You'll need to grow a thick skin here," Officer Vale said quietly. "Or scales." She smiled slightly at her own joke. "I understand," Lisa replied. "I didn't expect a warm welcome. The Alliance has over 200 member species. Humans are just the newest. You'll find your place." Lisa appreciated the small kindness, even if it was mixed with doubt. Her quarters were small but private, a privilege she hadn't expected. After dropping off her few possessions, Officer Vale led her deeper into the station, to levels that seemed less trafficked. The beast quarters are kept separate from the main areas of the station for safety reasons, Officer Vale explained, as they entered through a heavy security door. "All handlers must check in and out. No unauthorized access is permitted." The air changed immediately. It smelled of animals, disinfectant, and something wild. The lighting was dimmer here, and the walls were reinforced. They passed several enclosures containing creatures Lisa had only seen in briefing materials. A six-legged feline creature paced in one chamber. In another, something with too many eyes and a long, segmented body coiled in on itself. "These are the Alliance's battle creatures," Officer Vale explained. "Some are trained for tracking, others for combat or infiltration. Each has different handling requirements." "Who will I be working with?" Lisa asked. Officer Vale's expression shifted slightly. Commander Zelthar has assigned you to help with the Nexus Stalker. Lisa stopped walking. The Nexus Stalker? From Tarvus Prime? She knew about that creature. Everyone in the training program had learned about it. A legendary predator that had killed 3 handlers already. You've been briefed. Good. Officer, Vale continued walking. It was captured 2 standard years ago. So far, no one has been able to establish control over it for field operations. They reached the end of the corridor where a larger containment chamber stood separate from the others. The security measures were visibly heightened. Full containment field, neural suppressors, and backup physical barriers. Officer Vale listed as they approached. Still, keep your distance unless Senior Handler Pax is present. Lisa peered through the transparent barrier. At first, she saw nothing in the darkened interior. Then, something moved. Something big. 6 glowing eyes opened in the darkness. Fixed immediately on Lisa, the creature that stepped into view made Lisa's breath catch. It was massive, easily 3 times her size, with a sleek obsidian-scaled body that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its head was angular with multiple rows of sensors that evolved on a death world where seeing prey in all conditions meant survival. Powerful limbs ended in claws that could shear through metal, and a ridge of spines ran down its back. The Nexus. Stalker approached the barrier, moving with fluid grace that seemed impossible for something so large. It stopped just short of the containment field, its 6 eyes locked on Lisa. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Officer Vale looked at her strangely. "It's killed 15 sentients that we know of, including 3 Alliance handlers. Deadly is the word most use." "I can see why it would be deadly in its natural environment," Lisa said. "But it's also perfectly adapted, efficient." The creature tilted its head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made the hairs on Lisa's arm stand up. "It seems interested in you," Officer Vale noted, surprise evident in her voice. "That's unusual. It typically ignores new personnel until they try to enter its space. Then it tries to kill them." Lisa maintained eye contact with the creature. She had always had a way with animals back on Earth. Her parents had joked she could charm the birds from the trees. But this was different. This wasn't a dog or horse. This was something truly alien evolved on a world humans could barely survive on. "Your shift starts tomorrow morning," Officer Vale said, breaking the moment. "Report to Senior Handler Pax. He'll show you the basics, feeding protocols, cleaning routines using the automated systems and safety procedures. Don't expect to do much else. No one expects the Nexus Stalker to be field-worthy anytime soon." As they turned to leave, Lisa glanced back. The creature was still watching her, all 6 eyes tracking her movement. She felt something then, not fear but a strange sense of connection, as if something had just begun that neither she nor anyone else on the station could predict. That night, as Lisa lay in her quarters trying to sleep, she couldn't get the image of those 6 eyes out of her mind. The others might laugh at her, might think humans were weak and primitive, but she had seen something in that creature's gaze. Intelligence, curiosity, and something that reminded her of the wolves she had once helped rehabilitate on Earth. Predators weren't just killing machines. They were complex beings with their own kind of wisdom. Tomorrow would be her first real day as part of the Galactic Alliance. Lisa smiled into the darkness. They had no idea what humans were truly capable of. Soon she would show them. 2 months passed since Lisa Bennett arrived at Outpost Centauri. Each day followed the same routine. She woke early, reported to the beast quarters, and spent her shift caring for the Nexus Stalker and other creatures under Senior Handler Pax's supervision. The work was hard and often thankless. Most of the other handlers avoided her, except to make jokes about her human weakness. Today was no different. Lisa entered the training arena where handlers worked with their assigned creatures. The large circular room had high walls and a reinforced observation deck, where officers could safely watch the proceedings. Today, Captain Doran Wells stood watching with several junior officers. The captain was a lithoid, a silicon-based species, with skin like polished granite and a reputation for being as hard-headed as they looked. "Ah, the human arrives," Captain Wells called down, his voice echoing in the arena. "Perfect timing. We were just discussing proper control techniques for Class 3 predators. Lisa nodded politely and continued preparing the feeding supplies for the Nexus stalker. She had learned to ignore most comments, focusing instead on her work. "Recruit Bennett," Captain Wells said. "Step to the center of the arena, please." Lisa looked up in surprise. She placed the feeding kit down and walked to the center as instructed. The other handlers stopped their tasks to watch. Captain Wells descended from the observation deck, his heavy form making dull thuds with each step. "We have been monitoring your progress with the Nexus stalker. 2 months and the creature still shows no response to standard control measures." "It responds, sir," Lisa said. "Just not to neural whips or psionic restraints." A few of the watching handlers laughed. Captain Wells raised an eye ridge. "Is that so? And what does it respond to? Your charming human personality?" More laughter followed. Lisa kept her face neutral even as her cheeks warmed. "I believe it responds to consistency and respect, sir." Captain Wells made a sound like stones, grinding together, a lithoid laugh. "Respect? For a battle beast? This is what happens when we recruit primitive species. They anthropomorphize dangerous predators." He turned to address the watching handlers. "Let's give our human recruit a demonstration of why we use proper control methods." He signaled to a handler near the side entrance. The door slid open, and a handler led in a savla hound, a wolf-like creature with 6 legs and armored plates along its spine. It strained against its neural leash, drool dripping from needle-sharp teeth. "This is a Class 2 predator, Captain," Wells explained. "Half the threat level of your Nexus stalker. The weakest of our battle creatures, yet still deadly to an unprotected handler." He turned to Lisa. "Please demonstrate your respect method, Recruit Bennett." Lisa looked at the savla hound. Its eyes were wild with fear and aggression, signs of poor handling. The neural leash was set too tight, causing the creature pain, which only increased its aggression. "Sir, this isn't my assigned creature. I haven't established any—" "That's the point, human," Captain Wells interrupted. "Your methods are meaningless. Real control requires technology and strength, neither of which your species possesses in adequate measure." With a flick of his stone-like fingers, the captain released the neural leash. The savla hound snarled and lunged toward Lisa, covering the distance between them in seconds. Lisa didn't run. Instead, she dropped to one knee, made herself smaller, and avoided eye contact. A submissive posture she had learned worked with predators back on Earth. The hound skidded to a halt, confused by her reaction. It had expected her to flee or fight. "Enough games," Captain Wells said. He activated a control on his wrist, and the creature's neural implant glowed. The hound yelped in pain, then turned and attacked the nearest target, Lisa. She barely managed to roll away from the first lunge. The handlers watching from the sidelines backed away, leaving her alone in the arena with the enraged beast. As it circled for another attack, Lisa knew she had seconds to act. "Stop!" she called out using the command tone she had been practicing with the Nexus stalker. To everyone's surprise, the hound hesitated. Lisa repeated the command, her voice firm but not harsh. The creature growled, confused between its programming and her unexpectedly authoritative voice. Captain Wells increased the neural stimulation, forcing the hound back into attack mode. It leaped at Lisa. This time she couldn't dodge completely. Its claws caught her arm, tearing through her uniform and drawing blood. "That's enough," came a new voice. Officer Kira Vale stepped into the arena and activated an override that disabled the neural implant. The savla hound immediately backed down, whimpering as it retreated. "This demonstration is over," Officer Vale said, glaring at Captain Wells. "Medical to the training arena." Lisa pressed her hand against her bleeding arm. It wasn't deep, but it stung badly. Captain Wells looked annoyed. The demonstration was educational. The human needed to learn. "The only thing demonstrated here was poor judgment, Captain," Officer Vale interrupted. She helped Lisa to her feet. "And despite your efforts, Recruit Bennett showed surprisingly good instincts." The medical team arrived and led Lisa away. As they treated her wound, Officer Vale stayed with her. "You did well in there," Officer Vale said quietly. Most new handlers would have panicked. Lisa winced as the medic sealed her wound. "I worked with wolves on Earth. Predators respond to fear." Show it, and they attack. Stay calm, they get confused. Officer Vale studied her with new interest. Is that how you've been working with the Nexus Stalker? Lisa nodded. That and other techniques. On Earth, we've spent thousands of years learning to work with animals, not by forcing them to obey, but by building trust. Officer Vale looked skeptical. Trust? With a Nexus Stalker? It's not immediate, Lisa admitted. But in the past 2 months, it hasn't tried to attack me once. The logs show it tried to kill the previous handlers within days. After being cleared by medical, Lisa returned to the beast quarters. She was surprised to find Officer Vale waiting for her outside the Nexus Stalker's enclosure. Show me, Officer, Vale said simply. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. She went through her normal routine, preparing the creature's meal. She placed the food in the delivery system, but instead of stepping back as protocol demanded, she stayed close to the barrier. The massive black shape of the Nexus Stalker emerged from the shadows of its enclosure. All 6 eyes focused immediately on Lisa. It moved with deadly grace to the feeding area, but instead of immediately consuming the food, it stopped and looked at Lisa. Lisa made a small hand gesture, a signal she had been teaching it. The creature lowered its head slightly, then began to eat. It waited for your permission, Officer Vale said, her voice hushed with disbelief. It's learning that good things happen when it follows signals, Lisa explained. No pain, no punishment, just clear communication. Later that night, when the station's systems shifted to night cycle and most crew members slept, Lisa returned to the beast quarters. She used her security clearance to enter quietly, making her way to the Nexus Stalker's enclosure. The creature was awake, as if expecting her. Its 6 eyes tracked her as she approached the control panel for the containment field. Lisa took a deep breath. What she was about to do violated every safety protocol in the handbook. If caught, she would likely be sent back to Earth in disgrace. But something in her gut told her this was right. She lowered the containment field's strength by 30%, not enough to disable it completely, but enough to allow limited physical contact. Then she slowly extended her hand through the weakened field. The Nexus Stalker could have taken her arm off in an instant. Instead, it approached cautiously, its massive head lowering until it was level with her outstretched hand. Lisa held perfectly still, her heart pounding so hard she was sure the creature could hear it. Ever so slowly, the Nexus Stalker moved forward until its scaled snout touched her palm. The contact sent a shiver through Lisa, not of fear, but of connection. Those 6 eyes looked into hers with an intelligence that no one else on the station had recognized. You understand me, don't you? Lisa whispered. And I'm starting to understand you. The creature made a low rumbling sound, not aggressive but almost like a purr. Lisa smiled. The others might laugh at her primitive human methods now, but she knew something they didn't. The most dangerous predator on the station was beginning to trust her, and soon everyone would see what that trust could accomplish. Lisa continued her secret evening visits to the Nexus Stalker over the next few weeks. Each night she lowered the containment field just enough to allow contact, and each night, the massive predator showed more signs of recognition and cooperation. She named him Shadow, though she kept this to herself. Naming battle creatures was against protocol. They were weapons, not pets, according to the Alliance handbook. During her regular shifts, Lisa maintained official procedures while introducing small changes to how she interacted with Shadow. Officer Vale noticed these subtle differences but said nothing, simply observing with growing interest. The other handlers continued to mock Lisa's primitive human techniques, but their laughter had less edge to it now. They couldn't deny that the notoriously aggressive Nexus Stalker had become calmer under her care. On this particular morning, Lisa entered the beast quarters to find unusual activity. Handlers rushed about checking equipment and securing containment fields. Senior handler Pax barked orders, his forearms gesturing in different directions at once. What's happening? Lisa asked a passing handler. Combat readiness inspection, the handler replied without stopping. Commander Zelthar ordered all battle creatures prepared for potential deployment. Lisa hurried to Shadow's enclosure. The Nexus stalker paced inside, agitated by the commotion around him. When he saw Lisa, he moved to the edge of the containment field, all 6 eyes fixed on her. Senior Handler Pax approached, carrying a neural control harness. "Prepare your creature for inspection, Recruit Bennett. Commander Zelthar and Captain Wells will be here in 20 minutes. Lisa looked at the harness with concern. It was designed to force compliance through pain. "Sir, the Nexus stalker has never responded well to neural controls. Maybe we could—" "This isn't a request, Bennett. It's an order." Pax thrust the harness into her hands. "Every battle creature must be demonstration ready. Those are the commander's orders." Lisa took the harness reluctantly. She approached the containment field control panel and lowered the barrier just enough to allow the harness through. The same level she used during her night visits. Shadow growled at the sight of the harness. "I know," Lisa said softly. "I don't like it either." She held up the harness, then set it down on the floor of the enclosure, rather than trying to place it on him. Shadow looked at the harness, then back at Lisa, clearly confused. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Commander Zelthar, Captain Wells, and a group of officers approached, Officer Vale among them. Lisa quickly raised the containment field back to full strength. "Status report," Commander Zelthar demanded as they reached Shadow's enclosure. "All creatures ready for inspection, sir," Senior Handler Pax reported. "Except—" He glanced at Lisa and the unharnessed Nexus stalker. Captain Wells sneered. "Still having trouble with basic procedures, Recruit Bennett?" Before Lisa could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Commander Zelthar tapped his communication device. "Report," he barked. A panicked voice responded, audible to everyone nearby. "Scourge vessel detected. They broke through the outer defense perimeter. They're launching boarding pods." Lisa had heard of the Scourge, cybernetically enhanced raiders who attacked stations and colonies, taking captives for cruel experiments. They were among the most feared enemies in this sector of space. "Battle stations," Commander Zelthar ordered. "Prepare all defense systems. Deploy security teams to critical sectors." He turned to Senior Handler Pax. "Deploy the battle creatures to sectors 7 through 12. They'll slow down the Scourge until our forces can regroup." "Yes, sir." Pax turned to the handlers. "You heard the commander. Move." Chaos erupted in the beast quarters as handlers rushed to prepare their creatures for combat. Lisa watched in alarm as handlers forced neural harnesses onto unwilling beasts. The creatures fought back, their training forgotten in the panic. A handler screamed as a Savla hound broke free and mauled his arm before security personnel stunned the creature. "Bennett," Senior Handler Pax shouted. "Get that harness on the Nexus stalker now. It's assigned to Sector 9. Life support. Systems." Lisa looked at Shadow, who sensed the danger and moved restlessly in his enclosure. She knew forcing the harness on him would only trigger his aggressive instincts. She turned to Officer Vale, who had stayed behind while the others rushed to their posts. "There has to be another way," Lisa said. "He won't accept the harness, especially not with all this chaos." A massive explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered, and emergency systems activated. "Scourge boarding parties have breached Sectors 5 and 9, announced the station's automated alert system. "All personnel evacuate affected areas." "Sector 9, that's life support." Officer Vale's scales paled. "If they take that sector, they can shut down oxygen to half the station." Senior Handler Pax had already left with the other handlers. Lisa and Officer Vale stood alone before Shadow's enclosure. "We need him deployed now," Officer Vale said urgently. "But without control," Lisa made a decision. "I can control him, without the harness." Officer Vale stared at her. "That's against every protocol. It's suicide. Trust me," Lisa said. She approached the containment field controls. "I've been working with him differently than the records show." Another explosion shook the station. Officer Vale hesitated, then nodded. "Do it, but I'm coming with you." Lisa lowered the containment field completely. Shadow stepped forward, free of any barriers for the first time since his capture. Officer Vale drew her weapon instinctively. "Wait," Lisa said. She faced Shadow and made a series of hand gestures she had been teaching him during their secret sessions. The massive predator moved closer to her, his 6 eyes alert but calm. "Incredible," Officer Vale whispered. "We need to get to Sector 9, Lisa said. She made another hand signal and Shadow moved to her side, ready to follow. "He'll protect us on the way." They moved quickly through the station corridors, encountering panicked crew members fleeing from the invaded sectors. When they reached the boundary of Sector 9, they found signs of battle, scorch marks on walls, blood on the floor, and the bodies of security personnel. "The Scourge must have overwhelmed the defense team," Officer Vale said grimly. She checked her weapon. "Life support control is just ahead. We need to secure it." They rounded a corner and came face to face with 3 Scourge raiders. The invaders were humanoid in shape but heavily modified with cybernetic implants. Metal parts protruded from gray skin, and glowing red optical units replaced eyes. They carried advanced weapons that could cut through Alliance armor with ease. The Scourge spotted them immediately. One raised its weapon toward Lisa. "Now!" Lisa shouted, making a forward gesture with her hand. Shadow lunged forward with incredible speed. The Scourge fired, but the shot went wide as the Nexus Stalker slammed into the lead raider. Metal and flesh tore under Shadow's claws. The other 2 Scourge turned their weapons on the Predator, but Shadow moved with deadly precision, his natural armor deflecting their hasty shots. Officer Vale fired her weapon, hitting one of the distracted raiders. Lisa ducked behind a fallen piece of equipment as energy blasts flew around her. Within moments, the 3 Scourge lay dead or disabled on the deck. "Forward," Lisa called to Shadow, who immediately returned to her side, unhurt despite the brief battle. They pushed deeper into Sector 9, encountering more Scourge along the way. Each time, Lisa directed Shadow with voice commands and hand signals. The massive predator responded instantly, fighting with controlled fury that amazed Officer Vale. "He's actually following tactical directions," she said after they cleared another corridor. "Not just attacking. He's protecting you, protecting me, targeting threats in order of danger." "He understands more than anyone realized," Lisa replied, as they approached life support control. The door to the control room was partially melted open. Inside, Captain Wells and 2 security officers were pinned down behind equipment, exchanging fire with 5 Scourge raiders. The captain looked injured, one stone-like arm cracked and leaking minerals. Lisa caught Wells' eye from the doorway. The captain's expression shifted from surprise to disbelief when he saw the unharnessed Nexus Stalker at her side. "We need to help them," Lisa told Officer Vale. "But there are too many Scourge in open space." Lisa studied the room layout, then made a series of quick hand signals to Shadow. The Predator's 6 eyes tracked her movements, understanding the plan. "Cover us," Lisa told Officer Vale. Then she pointed to the ceiling above the Scourge position and gave Shadow a command. "Up and over." The Nexus Stalker leaped upward with astonishing strength, claws digging into the ceiling panels. He crawled along the ceiling directly over the Scourge raiders who continued firing at Captain Wells, unaware of the Predator above them. Lisa made a sharp, downward gesture with her hand. Shadow dropped from the ceiling into the middle of the Scourge group. Chaos erupted as the massive Predator tore through the surprised raiders. Officer Vale provided covering fire, and Wells and his security team seized the opportunity to advance. In less than a minute, the Scourge were defeated. Shadow stood in the center of the control room, waiting for Lisa's next command. Captain Wells stared at the scene before him, his rocky face showing rare emotion, pure shock. "How?" he began, looking from the Nexus Stalker to Lisa. "How is it taking orders from you without a neural harness? She doesn't force." News of Lisa and Shadow's success in Sector 9 spread quickly through the station's communication channels. Commander Zelthar, coordinating the defense from the command center, received the report with disbelief. "The human has the Nexus Stalker under control without a neural harness?" he demanded, his scales shifting to a deep purple of confusion. "How is that possible?" There was no time to question the methods. The Scourge continued to push deeper into the station, and conventional defense tactics were failing. 3 other Battle creatures deployed with their handlers had already been lost, either killed by the scourge or turned against their own handlers when the neural control systems malfunctioned under stress. "Sir," said his communications officer, "Captain Wells requests permission to form a mobile defense unit with Recruit Bennett and the Nexus Stalker. He believes they can clear the remaining scourge from sectors 10 through 12. Commander Zelthar hesitated only briefly. "Granted, tell Wells I want regular updates." In Sector 9, Lisa checked Shadow for injuries while Officer Vale helped Captain Wells bind his cracked arm. The Nexus Stalker stood calmly beside Lisa, occasionally scanning the room with its 6 eyes, alert for any new threats. "I've never seen anything like it," Captain Wells said, watching the creature's behavior. "The precision, the restraint. It's not just following basic attack commands, it's adapting to complex tactical situations." Lisa nodded. "I think that's why previous handlers failed. They treated him like a weapon to be pointed. But he's not a weapon, he's a partner." "Him?" Captain Wells noted the personal pronoun with raised eye ridges. Lisa flushed slightly. "Force of habit. On Earth we often work with animals as teammates, not just tools. Their communication devices activated with Commander Zelthar's orders to form a mobile defense unit." Captain Wells looked at Lisa. "Are you and your partner up for clearing more sectors?" Lisa looked at Shadow, who seemed to understand the question. The massive predator moved closer to her, ready for action. "We are," she confirmed. "Good," Wells said, standing with effort. "Because we have reports of at least 20 more Scourge Raiders in the nearby sectors. Our security teams are overwhelmed." Officer Vale checked her weapon. "The 3 of us plus 1 Nexus Stalker against 20 Scourge? Those aren't good odds." "4 of us," Lisa corrected, patting Shadow's scaled flank. "And he counts for at least 10. They moved out of the life support control room, advancing cautiously toward Sector 10. Shadow took point position without being told, his senses far sharper than any of the humanoids. Lisa stayed close behind him, with Officer Vale and Captain Wells covering their flanks. They encountered their first group of Scourge at the intersection leading to the main corridor of Sector 10. 4 raiders were setting up what looked like explosive charges along critical support beams. "They're trying to breach the hull," Captain Wells whispered. "If they succeed, this whole section could decompress." Lisa assessed the situation quickly. The Scourge were spread out, making a direct assault risky. She caught Shadow's attention and made a series of hand signals, more complex than any she had used before. Shadow blinked his understanding. The predator moved away from the group, disappearing into a maintenance shaft. Lisa nodded to Wells and Vale. "On my signal, provide covering fire, but stay back," she instructed. "Shadow will handle the close combat." Captain Wells looked skeptical but nodded. Lisa waited, counting under her breath. When she reached 30, she heard a low rumble from above the Scourge position. Shadow had circled around through the maintenance tunnels and now clung to the ceiling, just as he had done in the control room. "Now," Lisa said. She made a sharp, whistling sound, the signal for Shadow to attack. The Nexus Stalker dropped silently behind the Scourge, taking down the first raider before any alarm could be raised. The others turned, raising their weapons, but Shadow was already moving among them with deadly efficiency. Wells and Vale provided precise covering fire, careful to avoid hitting the quickly moving predator. Within moments, all 4 Scourge lay dead, and the explosive charges remained undetonated. Shadow returned to Lisa's side, barely breathing hard from the exertion. "Good boy," Lisa said softly, letting her hand rest briefly on his scaled head. The massive predator leaned into her touch for just a moment, before resuming his alert posture. "Captain," Wells stared at the interaction with amazement. "It actually enjoys your approval," he said. "This goes against everything we thought we knew about these creatures." "Maybe you've been thinking about them wrong," Lisa suggested. "On Earth even, our most dangerous predators form bonds. Wolves hunt in packs. Lions live in family groups. Being deadly doesn't make you mindless." They continued through Sector 10, encountering 2 more groups of Scourge. Each time, Lisa and Shadow worked in perfect coordination, with Vale and Wells providing support. The human and the apex predator moved like longtime partners, needing only minimal verbal commands. Shadow seemed to anticipate Lisa's needs, protecting her from danger without being told. Word of their effectiveness spread through the station's communication channels. Commander Zelthar watched the security feeds with growing astonishment as the unlikely team systematically cleared corridors that fully armed security squads had failed to secure. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the Scourge are beginning to retreat. They're returning to their boarding pods." They didn't expect effective resistance, Commander Zelthar mused. They're used to creating chaos and having the advantage. Track them. Make sure they don't regroup elsewhere on the station. Lisa's team had reached Sector 12, near the location where the Scourge boarding pods had attached to the station. They could hear the sounds of the raiders retreating, rushing, back toward their vessels. "They're running," Officer Vale said with satisfaction. "We should let them go. Our priority is securing the station." Captain Wells shook his head. "If they escape, they'll return with reinforcements. We need to disable those boarding pods." Lisa looked at Shadow, who was watching the retreating Scourge with predatory focus. "We can catch them," she said. "Shadow is faster than they are." "It's too risky," Captain Wells argued. "There could be dozens in that docking corridor." Lisa made her decision. "Shadow and I will go ahead. You two secure this area and call for backup." Before Wells could object, she signaled to Shadow and broke into a run. The Nexus Stalker matched her pace easily as they pursued the fleeing Scourge. They reached the docking corridor in time to see the last group of raiders entering their boarding pods. The Scourge spotted them and opened fire. Shadow leaped in front of Lisa, his natural armor deflecting the energy blasts. Lisa took cover behind a support column and analyzed the situation. 6 Scourge remained, trying to hold position while their boarding pods prepared to detach. "Circle right," Lisa called to Shadow, pointing to a path that would flank the raiders. Shadow immediately understood, breaking away to execute the maneuver. The distraction worked perfectly. The Scourge divided their attention, some firing at Lisa's position, others tracking Shadow's movement. In their confusion, none of them noticed Captain Wells and Officer Vale arriving with station security forces. "Surrender or be destroyed," Wells announced, his weapon trained on the Scourge. The raiders responded with increased fire. Shadow seized the opportunity to attack from their flank, while Lisa emerged from cover to join the station forces. The battle was brief but intense. Shadow moved with incredible speed, disabling 3 Scourge before they could react. Lisa and the security team handled the rest. When it was over, all 6 raiders were down, and the boarding pods remained attached to the station. "Good work," Captain Wells said to Lisa. For the first time, there was genuine respect in his voice. "You and your partner make an effective team." Shadow returned to Lisa's side, standing tall and proud. Lisa placed her hand on his scaled shoulder, feeling the powerful muscles beneath. "We understand each other," she said simply. Over the next hour, station security completed clearing operations, confirming that all Scourge had been eliminated or captured. The damaged sectors were secured, and repair teams began their work. The command center, Commander Zelthar reviewed the reports with growing interest. His attention kept returning to the security footage of Lisa Bennett and the Nexus Stalker working together. A human and an apex predator moving as one, accomplishing what teams of trained Alliance soldiers could not. "Perhaps," he said to his executive officer, "we have underestimated these humans." 2 days after the Scourge attack, Lisa stood at attention in the main conference chamber of Outpost Centauri. The large room was filled with station officers and crew members. Commander Zelthar presided from a raised platform, his scales now a deep blue of formal authority. Beside Lisa stood Shadow, the Nexus Stalker, free of any restraints or harnesses. The massive predator remained perfectly still, all 6 eyes alert but calm. The sight of an unharnessed battle creature in the conference chamber had caused initial alarm among the gathered crew. Many had pressed against the walls when Lisa and Shadow entered. But as the minutes passed and Shadow showed no signs of aggression, the tension slowly eased. Now the crew watched with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. Outpost Centauri faced its greatest threat in recent memory. Commander, Zelthar began. The Scourge attack could have resulted in catastrophic loss of life and the destruction of this station. That it did not is due to the courage and ingenuity of our crew. The commander's gaze swept the room before settling on Lisa and Shadow. Including unexpected contributions from our newest members, Lisa maintained her formal posture, but she could feel the shift in how the room regarded her now. The sidelong glances were no longer mocking but assessing, re-evaluating. The defense of the station has been fully reviewed by Alliance Command. Commander Zelthar continued. The battle recordings have been studied in detail, particularly the unprecedented partnership between recruit Lisa Bennett and the Nexus Stalker designated SX-7. Lisa suppressed a smile at the official designation. To her, he would always be Shadow. Such a partnership has no precedent in Alliance records, the commander said. The Nexus Stalker species has been considered untamable, useful only under strict neural control. Recruit Bennett has demonstrated otherwise. Captain Wells stepped forward. His cracked arm had been repaired, though the new stone showed a slightly different color than the rest of his body. I witnessed their teamwork firsthand, the captain said. The human and the creature worked together with exceptional coordination. No neural harness, no psionic restraints, yet the predator followed complex tactical directions. It even placed itself in danger to protect its handler. He turned to Lisa. How did you achieve this? All eyes turned to Lisa. She cleared her throat. On Earth, humans have worked with predatory animals for thousands of years, she explained. We learned long ago that force creates resistance, while trust creates partnership. I simply applied those principles. But this is not an Earth creature, Captain Wells pointed out. It's from Tarvos Prime, one of the most hostile environments known. Predators are predators, Lisa replied. They have different forms, different capabilities, but they share common traits across worlds. They respond to consistency, to clear communication, to respect. Shadow, she caught herself using the name. SX-7 is highly intelligent. I didn't break his will through force. I showed him that cooperation benefits us both. Officer Vale, who stood near the commander, stepped forward. I've reviewed Recruit Bennett's methods. They are unorthodox but effective. While our standard approach treats battle creatures as weapons to be aimed, her approach treats them as partners in combat. The results speak for themselves. Commander Zelthar's scales shifted colors as he considered this. Alliance doctrine has always maintained that battle creatures require strict control. Your methods challenge centuries of established practice, Recruit Bennett. Lisa stood her ground. With respect, Commander, sometimes established practices need challenging. A low murmur ran through the assembled crew. Such boldness from a junior recruit would normally be considered insubordination, but recent events had changed the usual dynamics. After a moment, Commander Zelthar's scales settled into a thoughtful green hue. Indeed, progress often begins with challenge. He straightened to his full height. Lisa Bennett, in recognition of your exceptional service during the Scourge attack, you are hereby promoted to the rank of Specialist. Furthermore, you are assigned to develop a new training program for the Beastmasters Division, implementing your partnership approach. Lisa blinked in surprise. Thank you, sir. Captain Wells will oversee the program development, the commander continued. And Officer Vale will serve as your direct supervisor. Captain Wells nodded. I look forward to learning these methods firsthand, Specialist Bennett. My previous assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. After the ceremony concluded, crew members approached Lisa cautiously, many of them still keeping a wary distance from Shadow. But the nature of their questions had changed. No longer did they mock her human weaknesses. Now they asked about her techniques, her understanding of predator psychology, her training methods. As the crowd thinned, Officer Vale approached with a datapad. Your new security clearance and quarters assignment, she said, handing Lisa the device. You'll be relocated to the officer section with special accommodations for SX-7. Lisa looked up in surprise. Shadow will stay with me? Officer Vale smiled slightly. The commander believes your partnership works best with continued contact. Besides, no one else could handle him if you weren't around. As they walked through the corridors toward Lisa's new quarters, crew members stepped aside, giving them a wide berth. But now their expressions showed respect rather than ridicule. They're still afraid, Lisa noted. Of course, Officer Vale replied. Fear is a natural response to apex predators. What's changed is how they view you. She glanced at Lisa with newfound respect. Humans may lack claws, armor, or venom, but you have something equally powerful. What's that? Lisa asked. The ability to turn fear into partnership. Officer Vale gestured to Shadow walking calmly beside them. That may be your species' greatest strength. They reached Lisa's new quarters, much larger than her previous assignment, with a connected chamber modified for Shadow. The door opened, automatically with her new clearance. The commander wants your first training session tomorrow, Officer Vale said. Captain Wells has requested to be your first student. Lisa smiled at that. The captain, who had once arranged a demonstration to humiliate her, now wanted to learn from her. I'll be ready, she promised. After Officer Vale left, Lisa entered her new quarters with Shadow. The Nexus Stalker explored the space, his 6 eyes taking in every detail. Well, this is home now, Lisa told him, watching as he investigated the specially reinforced resting platform in his chamber. Shadow settled onto it, looking content in a way she had never seen in the beast quarters. Lisa sat on the edge of her bed, thinking about how much had changed in such a short time. When she had arrived at Outpost Centauri, the alien crew had laughed at her, seeing humans as weak, primitive creatures with no place in the Galactic Alliance. Now they sought her advice, recognized her approach as valuable, worth learning. Shadow rose from his platform and moved to her side, his massive head level with hers as she sat. One of his 6 eyes blinked at her in what she had come to recognize as affection. She placed her hand on his scaled head, feeling the immense power contained in his body, power that could have easily killed her, but instead protected her. They laughed at us, she told him softly. But they're not laughing anymore. Shadow made a low rumbling sound in his throat, not a growl, but a purr, as if to say he understood completely. Outside her quarters, the station hummed with activity. Repairs continued, security protocols were updated, and the crew prepared for the next potential threat. But something fundamental had changed in how they viewed their human colleague. The species they had dismissed as weak had shown a different kind of strength. The strength to turn the galaxy's most feared predator into an ally, and in a galaxy full of dangers, that might prove the most valuable strength of all.